everyone, this is Lane aka Sunny Edge from Tumblr. I've had a lot of questions lately on creating edits, and so I thought I would make a video on how to create edits rather than writing one of those really long posts. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get an image that you like. I chose this image just because it's going to be a nice one to work with since it is fairly clean, it's light, the picture quality is just really good. So it's a good one to start with. Now, if you are on Tumblr, you need to make sure that the file size, or I'm sorry, the image size is a max of 500 for the width and a max of 700 for the height. I would suggest though to always have the width around 500 if you're doing one image. So I'm going to make the width about 500. As you can see, it's a little bit too long still. So as I zoom back in, I will make sure that I make this less than 700. So as long as it's just a little bit less than 700, you should be good. The next thing that I do is I go up to filters and I sharpen just once, and then I come over and use a topaz action that I downloaded. I cannot remember where I downloaded it, but if you look it up on Google or Tumblr, you should find a ton of options to download. Now I'm going to merge all the layers just to kind of flatten it, or you could hit Control-Shift-E and that will do the same thing. The next step that I'm going to do is to create a group so that I can see what I'm doing as I go along. So curves kind of lighten the image, so I'm just going to pull the curves up from the middle, which as you can see immediately starts to lighten the image. I also pulled down the curves near the end to make a little bit of a contrast, and we can see that the image is already quite a bit lighter. I'm going to use vibrance at 75, and that starts to make our picture a little bit more vibrant in some areas with the blues and the reds. Now one thing I need to make sure to note is that this will work for this edit. It does not mean that this exact technique will work for all edits. You need to figure out your techniques that will work for lighter pictures or darker pictures, for good quality and for bad qualities. This just happens to work for this one, but I'll try to upload some more different types that I do. Now, after this, I'm going to add a gradient map, and the gradient map is in the Color Harmonies 1, and it comes standard with Photoshop. Okay, I will reverse it so that we can see the image, and put it on soft light. It's a little bit too yellow, so I'm going to change the fill to about 45. But it's still a little yellow, so we'll come back down to our adjustment layers and hit color balance. I usually tend to put it a little bit towards the cyan and towards the blue, and as you can see it takes a little bit of that yellowish away and adds back more of those blue colors. After this, we'll kind of mess around with the selective colors. I usually only mess with the reds, yellows, and blacks, but sometimes if I see a lot of one of the other colors, I'll use these as well. But mostly the reds and yellows tend to affect the face and hair. So if I pull it over to the left, it makes it more red. If I pull it to the right, it makes it less. I want to see a little bit more of that red hair, so I'm going to make it about -15, and then go down to the yellows, and maybe pull out a little bit of that yellow as well. I don't usually mess with the magenta, but I will adjust the black and just pull it over to the left a little bit to lighten it up. So we can see that kind of brought out some of the red and yellows in her hair. I'll do the same thing with the yellows, and you just need to kind of adjust them to what you feel makes your picture the way you want it to look. And that's probably different for each person and each edit. And so that's kind of what I'm doing on the selective colors. I'll also use the black. I'm just going to very lightly use the black on the black part, and maybe just at a 3, and it just darkens up part of the image in some places. Then I will choose black and white, and I like to use it blended on the soft light, which really contrasts that picture. A little bit too much, so I am going to reduce the opacity to probably about 30. So I still have some of that, maybe 35. I know that probably seems a little picky, but it just kind of darkens up and contrasts the picture a little bit more. Okay, on top of that, I like to brighten up my picture using brightness and contrast. So I'll brighten that up, and then I will contrast it probably about the same. So as you can see, that kind of brightens up the picture a little bit. Then one other thing I like to do is use the solid color and choose a dark gray, almost black, and then lighten it. I just really like the look of this. So as you can see, it just kind of changes that. And sometimes I'll reduce it maybe just a little bit. And so it's still there, and it just kind of makes it look so smooth. And then the last thing that I usually add is the brightness and contrast one more time, with a little bit on the brightness, so just about a 5, and about a 10 on the contrast. Okay, now one thing I really love to do is look at our before and after picture. I think it looks pretty cool. It's pretty bright, but I like mine to be very bright. And the last thing that you need to do that really smooths out the pictures is to make sure you have Topaz Labs, which is called Topaz Clean. And you can download that all over the internet. It's pretty much available anywhere, but it's always good if you purchase it because that's more legal, but I know that nobody will. Now when you open up Topaz, it will look like this. I never mess with this top box. I usually only use the bottom, and I change the accent to 2. And I usually adjust the sharpness depending on the picture, somewhere between 40 and 70. And so for this picture, we'll try on 60. And I'm using that on the bottom layer. And as you can see, if I go back to before, it's smoothed it out a whole bunch. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that layer. And then I'm going to sharpen the edges. Which, as you can see, it's a little bit too sharpened. So we'll reduce that opacity to about 50. But it kind of brings out the sharpness in her eyes a little bit. And then that is our final image. I usually put some sort of watermark on there just to claim it as mine, but that's up to you. Now if you look before, that was our before picture, and this is our after, and doesn't it look so good? I really, really like it. I will probably upload this to Tumblr once I am done recording. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask. I hope to be able to put up some more tutorials. Please let me know if there's anything that you are looking for specifically. And make sure to check out my blog, sunnyedge.tumblr.com. All right, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.